Hello, everyone. I want to thank everyone, my colleagues in the University Student Senate, CCSD, CUNY Coalition for Students with Disabilities, and also graduate students and students with disabilities, and 11,000 students with disabilities allow me to testify. My name is Saaif Alam, and I'm the CUNY University Student Senate Vice Chair of Disability Affairs studying at John Jay College. I'm testifying today on behalf of students with disabilities and graduate students to talk about the lack of equity and issues of affordability that impacted them during the pandemic. I understand those challenges because I myself am a graduate student with a disability, understand the financial constraints graduate students, including students with disabilities, face during the pandemic. It is pivotal that the needs are addressed on behalf of these students because these communities of students were impacted during the pandemic. Our students with disabilities and our fellow graduate students struggle with equity. CUNY is comprised of 11,000 students with disabilities. Many of these students struggled during the pandemic. I interacted with these students during the pandemic, and they say they were struggling to communicate with their professors regarding accommodations. When I was communicating with the disabilities director expressed that faculty development training is optional in regards to accommodations. Many faculty members do not end up attending those sessions because they do not get paid with a stipend. Due to the lack of faculty development training regarding accommodations, our faculty members do not meet the expectations of our students. Our infrastructure development needs improvement to ensure campuses are ADA compliant, such as Medcavers, York College, College of Satellite, and Lehman College, and many more. Students in those campuses express that they are not able to properly commute to those campuses. There's an issue regards to lack of funding for the infrastructure. Students with disabilities struggle to receive adequate tutoring and academic advisement. They expressed to me that some tutoring centers and academic advisement services are not fully trained to provide accommodations for students with disabilities, such as extra time on tutoring services and course substitute option for courses. For graduate students, express lack of engagement with their campuses. Students in the master's program do not receive a stipend on their master's thesis. Also, graduate students with disabilities do not receive adequate peer tutoring services. Our students with disabilities and graduate students with disabilities struggle with affording their tuition. Our students with disabilities struggle to earn a scholarship that will fully pay off their tuition. For instance, the John Jay Accessibility Center offers a $500 scholarship for high-achieving students with disabilities. This is not enough for them to pay their expenses since a full-time student spend thousands of dollars on their tuition. Many of them face unemployment, and others depend on SSI to pay off their living expenses. For those students with disabilities who do not receive financial aid, face a financial burden, worrying about paying off their tuition costs. Our graduate students do not receive financial aid, and they either pay out of pocket or take out a loan. Our graduate students work in jobs that still do not make ends meet, paying off their living expenses and tuition costs. Some of them teach as adjuncts and still are not satisfied with the salary that they earn in order to afford their necessary expenses. Other graduate students take out a loan, could not pay it off until years later after they graduate with their master's or professional degree. Although CUNY invested in the community deal, I'm asking you to place more pressure on the Board of Trustees to ensure the funding is properly allocated to help students with disabilities succeed, to ensure that there's more faculty development training, investment for accommodation for tutoring and academic advisement services, making sure that campuses are ADA compliant, and more scholarship for these community students. Also, I'm asking you to pressure the Board of Trustees to allocate more funding for graduate students, ensure master's students receive a stipend for the thesis, more investment on extracurricular activities to keep them engaged, salary raise for adjuncts, and more scholarship for high-achieving graduate students. Furthermore, I'm asking you to cancel student debt for graduate students who contributed their hours at work on and off campus so they can achieve their career goals without worrying about student debt for the most of their lives. In addition, I'm asking you to collaborate with the Race to the State Senate to extend TAP awards financial aid to low-income graduate students so it can alleviate the financial burden and they can meet graduation requirements. Please take action as soon as possible so our students with disabilities and graduate students can receive the representation they deserve during the in-person transition to their classes. And I would like to thank you for your time for allowing me to testify today. Thanks.